And welcome to our podcast, Rebuilding Careers at Working Wardrobes. I'm very honored to have three outstanding women from Cox Automotive, and I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves and give you an idea of the work that they do in their day job. So, Amber, would you start, please?
Yes, I'm Amber Gusa. I'm a senior interaction designer for Kelley Blue Book and Auto Trader. I work primarily on the global elements of the storefronts, so the home pages of both sites, and anything that's global across both sites. So if you have a My KBB account or My Auto Trader account, I work on those things. Our near and big partnerships like working with Geico or State Farm or Capital One, ad products that are across the site, anything that goes across all pages, I usually have some kind of hand in it.
Fantastic. And Marissa?
I'm Marissa Lillard, and I'm the Regional Arbitration Director for the West for Mannheim Auctions, and I focus mainly on, my real work that I do is in training and developing my team, my managers and my supervisors, and then my team members. But a big part of my job is really focused on conflict resolution and negotiation, so that is something that I am pretty excited about.
Excellent. And Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Elseman, and I have been with Cox for about 16 years now. Started back in the day with Kelley Blue Book, and I actually am a senior recruiter, and I am dedicated to recruiting for Cox Automotive. So all of my hiring is Cox Auto. Even though I personally am a Cox Enterprises employee, I focus on automotive.
So thank you very much for being with us today and for being part of the podcast. We're talking so much this year about the issues that are facing women and the challenges that women see in the workforce. Obviously, Cox is an enormous company. You represent a cross-section, even a small cross-section of what Cox does. And I know that there are many employee resource groups at Cox, one of which you all are members of, the Women's Leadership Group. So jump in and tell us what the Women's Leadership Group is all about. Amber, do you want to start?
Yeah, I actually have a little pitch.
All right.
We've been working on this.
We all worked on this.
Yeah, we've been working on this. Women with Drive Irvine is we're officially called the Women with Drive Irvine chapter. We launched in July 2016. We're a network that was developed with the purpose of creating community focused on the personal and professional development of all team members. The benefits of it are we offer leadership opportunities, learning how to build an inclusive culture, creating community and connection, and contributing meaningfully to the Cox culture, both within our company and within our communities around us.
So that's how we got together.
Yes, that's how we got
together. I love that. So I want to know from each of you why you decided to join Women's Leadership Group. Susan, give us your story.
So I was introduced a few years ago to our employee resource group for women, Women with Drive, and I was actually tapped on the shoulder after participating in events for a couple of years and asked to join the committee. So I thought about it, and you know, it is volunteer, so I knew that it would take up some time, but I was very interested in making an impact. So I joined the committee. I'm actually part of the Content and Communications Committee right now. And then most recently with our March Twerk Talk, I actually stepped up and moderated that event, which was a first for me, out of my comfort zone. But that's what Women with Drive is doing for me, is it's allowing me to sort of push myself and do things that are a little bit out of my comfort zone.
I love that. So Marissa, how about you? Are you out of your comfort zone, or are you in your lane?
I would say I'm in my lane. I've actually been very passionate about diversity in the workforce and creating an inclusive culture since I was pretty young, when I was in college, actually. So I've been doing things like this, or parts of communities like this, since I was in college. And so when I came to Cox Automotive, I didn't know that something like this existed. Like she said, this was formed in 2016, and I joined Cox Automotive in December 2015. So it's really, it's taken me a while to realize that we had these amazing resources for our team members. So as soon as I found out that it existed, I'm like, I have to be a part of that.
So let me just ask you, because this is above and beyond your day job, and you're doing volunteer work. How have you changed since you've been a member of the Women's Leadership Group? Who's got a thought for us? Amber, you got a thought?
I've been on the board for 3 years now. I've been participating for 4, and I have come up with ideas for events. So it's not something I would have done normally in my day-to-day job. I get to interview people that are pretty senior in the company. I've done a couple of tour talks with senior leadership, which I wouldn't have had the opportunity to ever speak to them otherwise. So there is also, it's creating your own opportunities, and then also trying to think of like, what would I want at the company, and then creating that for the company.
And you have an opportunity to just do whatever you decide you'd like to do.
Yeah.
Marissa, how do you think you've changed since you saw the light?
For me, I feel like the biggest immediate impact was time management, because I am a parent. I have 5 children actually, and I have, pets, and then I have I try to have a life outside of work. And then on top of that, I have a pretty demanding job. So balancing all of these things has been a challenge, but it's been one that I've really learned a lot from, on how to protect my time and set really good boundaries with things that maybe aren't adding to my life. So
really what's looking at what is important and the impact. And Susan, how about you? You've obviously talked about you are outside of your comfort zone.
Right, and it is something that I wanted to do for a long time, is start to do things that aren't super comfortable. I've been doing my job for many, many years, and I can do it with blindfold on, hands wrapped, and I love it. I pinch myself every day saying, how am I so lucky? But this is sort of stepping out and beyond my regular daily work and thinking like a leader. Being on the committee has allowed me to participate, in, like Amber said, coming up with ideas and participating in running the events and all of it. So it's new and fresh, and it pushes me.
So I love that this is available to you, and that Cox is really passionate about developing employees. So we've all faced challenges with COVID, and I want to drill down on what you all did and what Cox's role was for you, and then we'll talk a little bit about the She Session. So let's go back to March of 2020. Lives in infamy. What happened at Cox about the middle of March? How did you get the word that maybe you're going to be working at home?
I can share. I had just started in a new role as a leader for a new type of department that we were just developing within Mannheim. So it was very fresh for me as to take over this team. I had just met this team. I started on February 28th was my first day, but it was training. So I didn't actually really officially meet the team until March 2nd. And then, as we know, it was just a week and a half or 2 weeks later that everything shut down. And the auctions were stopped for around a month. I think it was maybe a little bit under a month that the auctions weren't running. So we couldn't have anybody beyond the bare minimum, essential people on site. I actually, right as I started my position, my direct leader had told me, just by the way, while you're learning about your role, start thinking about how would we do this if we maybe didn't come into the auction. And I was like, do you mean working remote? Is that what you mean? And he said, well, how many laptops, for example, would you need, just hypothetically? And I put together the team and how many people we had, how many already had equipment, and how many would need equipment. And I was like, here's how many I need. And he said, okay, order them. And I was like, all right, I guess so. So I just and I'm like, he said, look, we don't know anything right now. We don't know, but we know that something could happen. And so if something is to happen, how are we going to continue running our business? And I was like, well, I can put together a strategy for our team to manage their work remotely. And so you just tell me when to go. So I got the laptops, and we were just kind of sitting there like waiting. And it was really, really timely, because we got the laptops, and they set up everybody's account on the laptop. And that afternoon, they sent out a message and said, nobody's coming back to work, so come and pick up your laptops tomorrow morning.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
you were working with someone who really was tuned in to what is happening. And of course, as a nonprofit, when I hear you say, we just ordered laptops, I'm sure my time stops. We don't order laptops, we're asking for your use.
Right.
So what happened in your department? How did you?
So I'll be really quick. For me, I've been working remote for years. in my role.
Oh, you have.
My whole team is actually a remote team. Cox is very progressive in the remote workforce, arena. I would venture to say 30 to 40% of our company was already working remote pre-pandemic.
No kidding. So
And I'm one of those people.
And do you have your office set
I
up?
have a full office, laptop. They gave me monitors, equipment, everything that I need to be successful as a remote worker.
And Amber, what about you? Are you remote or are you?
At the time, I was full-time in the office, and we could take days where we worked remotely, and I did do that here and there, but it wasn't as let's say leadership wasn't as excited when we worked from home. I mean, they wanted us in the office, but we were able to. And I was actually already working from home. I had been sick. And so when everything shut down, I was already at home with my laptop, and I just never went back in again. When I was better, we were
all
still
very
out.
different stories.
Very
Yeah.
different story. So did Cox take a leadership role in making this remote access available across the board? Because how many employees does Cox have? Let's just take a look at that.
50,000.
50,000. We're talking a lot of laptops there.
Very.
We're
So-
going to talk laptops with you very, very soon. But what did Cox say to as a corporate message? What was the message that came down to all of you?
The number one thing that sticks with me is your safety comes first. That was the message
Wonderful.
to all employees from our leadership was we care most about your safety. And that was how every message started.
And how did they make it easy and comfortable for you to instantly work at home? Did you each have space to have an office at home?
I
have
was
5 kids and animals.
No,
What did you do?
I was also already a remote position because my position is a travel position. So me personally, I already had it set up because I had been leading a remote team in our logistics channel. And so then I just transitioned to arbitration, and I was going to be leading remotely again for team members who were spread out across the West. So I was already prepared as far as what I needed to do. But once my leader told me this is going to be moving to remote, I recognized that every single person on my team had a desk that they reported to every day, and not all of them had one at home.
Right.
So that was one of the first things that we did was we worked with our team to see if they needed space or if they needed something. As Susan said, safety first, but if there was a person who was not able to work from home, like they just did not have the space, then what we did was we looked at the option to see if there was kind of a remote office that was physically at the location that they could perhaps report to, or something along those lines. So we tried to accommodate different people's needs, but it turned out for most of the team that almost everyone was able to find a space that they felt comfortable working in.
So you must have an extraordinary IT team at Cox.
We do. We really do.
We're talking an amazing pivot to go.
Yeah.
I seriously bought them lunch like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Like I owe them so much. They're so on the spot. Anytime we have a problem, they're ready to help us out. They're incredible.
And one of the things our company did as a whole for every single employee, they sent each of us $1,000.
We did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Susan, seriously.
No, I'm not kidding.
Yes, not kidding.
Like out of the blue, just you know what, you're going to be, and this was to help subsidize your work from home. If you need a desk, a chair,
That
whatever
was
you need.
my saving grace. I lived in a very small 700 square foot apartment. I did not have a desk. There was nowhere to go to get that, make office space. I was working on a little nook kitchen table, and that's okay for a week or two, but my back, my legs, my knees, everything was starting to hurt. And so I reached out to leadership and I said, hey, what can we do? And they said, we have something coming. So I ended up being able to I got rid of my table, and I ended up getting a sit-stand desk with the money that they gave us. So that was great.
It saved your body.
It saved my body. It's amazing how much difference that made. It's night and day. I feel so much better now. It took a while. I had to do some chiropractic work and physical therapy. I'm not kidding. Like it really took a toll. It was a lot of pain. I had 2 months of that table.
Like I actually, like I said, I work remote, so I got an office space. But because I've traveled, I'd never really sat in the chair very often. So I didn't really think about the chair that I had there. But once I was sitting there every day, I started getting pains in my neck where I couldn't turn my head all the way. So I did something similar. I was like, is there any way I could come and pick up a chair at the office? Because this chair is not cutting it. And my boss was like, we got you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I ended up getting a chair, 2 monitors, and then I bought a desk.
It's just fantastic. So when you think about your company going through all of this, what's your feedback to the company? And did people send notes to HR or the CEO as a result of really deciding we're going to do something to take care of our employees?
I think for me, what I very much appreciated was how frequently they communicated what was happening, because things were changing so quickly.
Yes.
And how quickly and decisively they acted. Once they decided this is happening, we're going to go into lockdown, it was everyone. Everyone's on the same
The
page.
entire company.
The entire company. Everyone, even in Atlanta.
Right.
And so California went into a lockdown. We were one of the first states to have a stay-at-home order. But once that started happening, they said, you know what?
They locked down everybody.
They didn't
across
wait
the
for
country.
states to, they just said.
When California locked down, we all locked down.
Yeah.
Did anyone, was there layoff at all?
We did have a shift in our workforce. We did have to have some furloughs, and then we did have some team members leave. But considering essentially our company actually voluntarily paid everyone, even if they weren't working, even if they weren't participating through May 1st.
From
so
the original
March
announcement to May, regardless if, because we do have a lot of employees,
Right.
especially at the auction,
drivers.
who they have to physically, they can't work remote. You can't drive remote.
Exactly.
You can't,
Exactly.
And so they physically were not working, and our company, Cox Automotive, committed to paying them through May 1st, no matter what, working or not.
And I've noticed some of the furlough employees have come back.
Yeah.
We've seen some folks coming back in.
Because we
like
are
old
starting
names that we used to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that. Where are you now? You're still remote, Susan. And Marissa, are you remote and in the office?
Yes, I'm remote. I'm going to continue being remote. And my team is actually, one of the big changes that they came out of it was that they found that we can actually complete all of the tasks required in arbitration at home. So my entire team across the West, from Phoenix all the way to Seattle, San Fran, everybody, we're all going to work from home.
Is it Zoom or is it Teams?
It's Teams. We have Teams, yeah.
And how about you, Amber? Are you still at the stand-up desk at home, or are you back in the office?
Still working from home. I'll be honest, I like it.
Okay, so let's find out about that, because there has to be some good, some bad things, some ugly about working at home. And obviously we had the ergonomic issue going on.
Right.
What was the good about working at home?
I was already working from home, but
Yeah.
the good part about it is that it's much, much easier to feel like I'm in charge of my time and how I can manage my time. I do have children, and they are at home also doing school at home. And one of them is a little bit, she's 10, and so she doesn't quite have that self-management down yet. So she's like a high-touch person in the house. We kind of have to check up on her pretty frequently. So her desk is right around the corner from mine, so that I can keep an eye on her during the day. So the good part was, because our kids all had to end up being at home as well, it allowed for us to at least be able to supervise. It's a challenge. It's also the bad part, right? Because then I kind of have to divide my attention.
That's right.
But I am grateful that I have the ability to be at home while completing my work, because I recognize that that's not something that everybody has the luxury of doing.
So have you found, do you have children?
I don't.
Do you have children?
They're grown.
They're grown. So you really went through the challenge of my children are at home, homeschooling. So there was the levels and levels of work that you needed to add to the busy job that you already have. How did you juggle all that?
I have dry erase calendars, like wonderful. I actually, at first it felt a little bit like I was drowning. I really did feel like I don't know how we're going to make it through this, especially my daughter is, she has ADD, and so she's really, I say high touch because she requires a fair amount of supervision to make sure that she's on task. And so having her, the older kids, we have 13-year-old twins and a 16-year-old, and you can kind of just, here's where you need to be today, and then they do it. You just follow up and make sure it gets done at the end of the day. But the 10-year-old, if you're not paying attention, she'll be wandering off in the classes, sitting there staring at a blank wall. So it was a big challenge. So with my daughter, I did get one of those little 7-day dry erase boards, and we write out her calendar, including her meals and snacks, because that was one of her favorite things about working from home, is she can go to the kitchen whenever she wants and get some snacks. And so she started doing it during class. So I had to like schedule in her meal times so that she didn't forget she was supposed to be in class.
You're just in the moment every single day.
Yeah.
So anything bad or ugly about working at home?
It's a little tough. It was a little tough at first with collaboration. A lot of what I do is whiteboards and being in a room full of people and having brainstorms and discussions. That took some transition, but we did find a really great tool where we could do that virtually. It took a little time, a little bit of a learning curve. It's kind of tricky, but we use Mural.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a great tool. Now we're all very proficient in it in my team, and we use it a ton. And I don't know what we're gonna do when we go back. We have this permanent heuristic now of the whiteboard that's like in the computer.
So Susan, you are used to remote. Did you miss, is there any missing of socialization?
That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, I went remote a few years back, and I worked out of the KBB office for many, many years, and I had many friends, and so the biggest thing for me was the social piece. I'm a social butterfly, and so on the one hand, I'm way more productive at home because you don't have any distractions. However, I do really miss all my friends.
So how many missed hugs? I mean, you're close with your colleagues, right? You're connected. So what was the feedback from your families? Like, you are here all the time. What did they have to say to you?
Oh, for me, I live alone, so it was very isolating. I had no touch, no contact with anybody for months. I think it was like 6 months of literally no human contact other than the grocery store. That was really hard. And I'm a social butterfly too. That's why I joined this group, because I'm a social butterfly. But it was really hard. So I had no family. I don't have family here. They're all in Florida or in New York. So I was very alone.
So were you doing Zoom and Teams with your family?
We tried that. I don't like it. I'm weird. I'm not your typical millennial. Like, I don't want to be on FaceTime. I don't like Zoom. And we're on it all day for work. I feel exhausted. It's like being on Zoom all day. And you feel like you're performing all day.
That is, this is a really apt description, because that is what it feels like. I feel like I'm on stage. Like, I have to keep my face to the audience.
Even your background. Your background, your mannerisms, everything. You know, when you're
more exhausted than being in a meeting full of people.
It does.
It took a while to get used to.
So because part of our organization is about clothing, and we've done workshops on how to dress for a Zoom meeting, because we're seeing ourselves, from there. Did your wardrobe change while you were at home?
Yes. I don't know if it was for the better. I'll be honest.
From the bottom down, maybe not.
Well, to be fair, my leadership in the role that I'm in, and then our work group in general is somewhat tending toward casual, because we're a very tactical part of the industry where we're literally going out at something. Like, it is a requirement that we have closed-toe shoes, because we could be asked to move cars at any time. Everyone in the location. So we tend to be a little bit more casual in my area of the business. And so that hasn't, working from home hasn't really changed but it's just made it even more exaggerated and more casual. And then my boss pointed out one time, and other leaders have said the same, that you're in your house right now. I'm not going to tell you how to dress in your house. And so I think that there is an important part of, if we have a meeting, an event or something like that. I think the team probably noticed when we did our twerk talk, I was wearing a tank top. I went and changed into a polo that has the Manheim logo, because I recognize when we're doing something important, I do want to represent myself more formally. But in my day-to-day work, I'm usually just wearing yoga pants.
So if you're thinking about coming back to the office, do you think about what you might need to wear? Do you have to think about this again?
Yes, I will tell you, I have a guilty pleasure of getting really nice clothes. I love getting dressed.
I love hearing from you, Marissa. Tell us more.
I love it. And so I actually I have an app on my phone that has all my clothes in my closet, and I can pick out outfits. It's like what's that? Clueless, the little computer thing. And I have an app like that. And so I'm kind of a geek about it. I like dressing, and so I bought some new clothes right before the pandemic, and I still have not worn them because I haven't gone to work.
Well, for me, nothing fits any longer. Quarantine has, added some pounds, and I look at my closet now and I'm like,
Mhm.
no.
Someday.
So coming out into the world again is going to be very challenging.
So, you know, we've actually addressed that, Susan. I want you to know, we did a workshop called the Quarantine 15.
And it's real.
Yeah, it is real, and we suggested that people could go shopping with us. Resale shopping is, first of all, smart shopping,
Mhm.
and you can buy great clothes as an interim measure until you get into the things that you bought before the
Exactly, right.
pandemic. So
Right.
we're going to give you coupons. So I want to talk about your experience with maybe some colleagues or friends of women who dropped out of the workforce. What have you seen about the impact the pandemic had on women and those who had to leave the workforce, whether it was voluntary or involuntary? What's your experience been?
For me, I think a good number of my friends have been fortunate enough to have roles that they could do remotely. So they've had a similar challenge to me where they're trying to balance being a parent and being a working parent at home while children are also at home attending school. And that's been what, from my social circle, the group of people that I know, that's the biggest impact that I've seen on my friends is they're trying to balance their life and work at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is not a small challenge. And I think a lot of us are maybe assuming like we're doing it, right? We're swimming and we maybe don't realize that we're getting like lower and lower in the water. And we maybe need a little bit more of a break than we recognize.
What was it that Cox addressed about those challenges that you would face? Because this is a new way of working. But was Cox thinking about the challenges of parents and how you had to also make sure that you got your job done?
Yes.
What came down from above?
What came down from above was that they understood that we were going to be working at home. There were going to be barking dogs and children who were
Right.
crying.
It was the communication.
Right. And so they weren't in any way they were trying to set a culture where that was going to be okay.
Yeah.
That we understand that that's going to happen and we're going to continue to move through it and move through the meeting. We're not going to stop the meeting and go, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
Does somebody have a kid there?
Right.
Like we're going to keep going.
Right.
And that was reinforced by even, I think it was Alex Taylor. We were on a big company meeting and one of his children joined. And so
Wonderful.
We've had a lot of that.
Right. And so I think that it's kind of created, our leaders all the way from the very top have been very, very adamant that we understand that you're working at your house and that your house and your life are going to bleed into work a little bit. And so they've been flexible. So for me, for my team, what I set targets for the team. We need to hit these metrics. But beyond that, I'm not even going to look at what you're doing during the day. I just want to make sure that you're accomplishing the work that we need to get done to keep the business moving and to provide good customer service. But once we kind of get there, like I'm not going to ask you, why you were off cue for 15 minutes that one time when you already had a break. I'm just going to, you hit your target, you were on cue for the right amount of time.
It's a whole shift in, in how we work.
So speak a little bit more about that, Susan. What do you think changed the most?
Well, I think one of the biggest changes I've seen when it related to remote work, we have, everybody going remote. I've seen, I would say, an 80% success rate with remote work, but there's this little pocket of teams, and I'm pretty closely aligned with our sales teams, and we have inside sales teams that sit all across the country and sell for different business units. And there are some teams that are flailing a little bit because their drive, their motivation, their joy, their passion comes from being together. So lacking the collaboration that they get when they're all together in the office selling and competing against each other and egging each other on, that's struggling a little bit. But like I said, just pockets, pretty much I would say, and I'm just throwing out, I don't have real statistics, but I'm going to say 80 to 90% of our workforce. What we've learned is that we can be productive and efficient and get the job done working remote.
Yeah,
we can do it.
I would echo that. Leadership always voiced concerns in the past about we wouldn't be productive, we would be less productive, but we've actually proved that we're more productive, and we've seen it in our team as well. And also, I saw a shift in what hours you work. So before it was 9 to 5, butts in seats. you were here, you were working, no time off, right, in between. But now I've noticed that if you need to come in a little earlier, get off a little earlier, start a little later, work a little later,
Right.
they're way more flexible with that. And like you said, they are more about trying to strike the balance. As long as you get your work done, they don't care when
if
you're
you're
doing
producing,
if you're getting
you're
your work
meeting
done,
your goals, you're getting your work done, they don't care how you're doing it or
how
when
or
you're
when,
doing it.
yeah. It's gotten way more flexible.
What do you think that has done to the overall sense at leadership? Are they simply saying, we are looking at a different way of doing our business and we're okay with this?
Absolutely.
It's opened up the eyes of a lot of leaders, back to what Amber was saying, who pre-pandemic were like, I don't know about that whole remote thing. Now they're like, wow, it works. You know, being forced into the situation, they've actually been forced into seeing that we can be very successful in this model.
So what do you think that did to the level of trust? Because at the end of the day, management has to trust employees to get the job done. So do you feel like overall trust actually went up?
I would absolutely agree with that.
What a wonderful outcome of all that, isn't it? So I want to dig into a little bit more about this concept that we're talking about called the she session. Really difficult to say three times. So what have you experienced with the she session? You're either personally, in your circle of friends, what you've read about. Is this something that Cox is concerned about?
For me, I hadn't heard about it until we were going into Women's History Month, and I had started hearing this term, she session. I'm like, what is that? I had been fortunate, like Marissa, my friends hadn't really been affected. The only pocket of friends I had seen affected losing their jobs and being put out of the workforce were my friends in fitness or restaurants. No job, like they're just done. They had to find other things to make money, and so I saw that, but a very small group of friends are yoga teachers or fitness instructors or servers or owners in bars. Most of my friends were able to transition really easily. They had jobs that could go remote. But when I started hearing about the she session and digging in, and then the information you shared, Wardrobe shared with me, I was like, wow, I had no idea it was that bad. And then it made sense, like women being more affected because
especially
the caretakers and
the mothers
having to go home and take care of kids full time when we're not in school and not being able to do your job. It just opened my eyes. I am very fortunate, and I didn't realize how fortunate and my friends and my people around me are.
I remember in those early days of the pandemic, that was what kept going through my head is moms and dads, especially moms, you know, moms and dads, but with kids being home, just, you know, like Marissa's situation, I'm like, how are you doing it? How are you doing this? Because, you know, mine are grown, but I remember when they were in middle school. And, I don't know.
I will tell you, my house is a lot less clean than it was. I don't have as much time.
So I want to ask if any of you have heard about this group of women who live in New York City who meet in Central Park, and they get together and they scream as loud as they can.
I have just recently.
What do you think that does for them?
Oh my God.
Oh, it sounds so cathartic.
I know, right?
It's like
we understand.
I don't know if that would be the type of nurses that I would choose, but I definitely understand. It would be like, you know what? I might try it just to see if it works for me too. But there is a lot of it's not necessarily buried, but I just feel like we kind of are expected to just keep carrying and just keep going and just keep going. And you know, one more month and then the kids are out of school and now we have to manage summertime, and we don't always often stop and think of how much we're carrying and how heavy all of this is. And so I think the screening would probably feel really good.
But our company has actually provided us some free resources that like they gave us all access to Headspace, which is an app on your phone that typically costs money. They gave it to all of our entire workforce for free, you know, and so they've done things like that to help us in the areas of meditation and therapy, and, you know, so they've provided additional resources to us as well, thinking about those very things.
So we all carry stress in certain ways, right? And so some can meditate, some want to scream, some want to. What did you do? What did you do to really think about your own mental health and to keep yourself as healthy as you could? You're living alone, so you face some isolation, Amber. Did you go to the grocery store every day. I take walks in the park.
The grocery store was an outing. It became an outing for sure.
Right.
But I was afraid to go. I
Amen.
actually have a compromised immune system. So in the beginning of the pandemic, I was terrified. I would actually grocery shop for 2 weeks and try to make it last. I wouldn't have to go as often. But I would go outside and walk. I started walking. I work out a lot, and so with the gym being closed, I no longer had the outlet, and I didn't realize how important that outlet was until it was a month of not doing it.
Yes,
So I started doing yoga at home. I found stuff online. Work offered an open fit app for us to do this through. So I started a 5K running program. I'm not a runner at all. Never thought I'd be a runner. I'm still running to this day, and I'm running a 10K now. I never even thought I'd make it to a 5K. So, but there was so much time that I realized going outside and getting fresh air every day was critical to my mental health. I was going crazy inside my 700 square foot apartment. Like it was just so small.
And Marissa wants to come and stay in your
Right.
It just sounds so quiet.
And Marissa's like, oh, that sounds so lovely.
And I only got
quiet.
to do it for myself.
Yeah.
Kidding? Oh my gosh.
Marissa, how did you put a pin in the balloon? Because that stress level had to continue to grow and
Right.
grow.
And I'm going to be fairly honest. I have throughout my life struggled with anxiety and depression. And this pandemic seems like it's tailor-made to exacerbate those conditions. And so similar to Amber, I also I enjoy working out, and I do different things to try to help. I do some cycling. I have a mountain bike, and but I also had a gym membership that I was like, I can't use this anymore. Now what am I going to do? So I turned also to some apps that I found. And so I got up to a 10K too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm still running, and I'm doing that. But I think part of it is I let go of a lot of expectations of myself and what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I let go of a lot of expectations of what the kids were supposed to be doing and how they were supposed to handle it. And we kind of had a couple of months, especially at the very beginning, where no one was really sure what was happening, and work. I wasn't even sure if I was going to continue to have a job. Like no one really knew, right? And I just said, you know what? I'm going to practice some stoicism, and I'm just going to say, like, what will be, and we'll be okay. And so it was a struggle, and it's still, I'm not going to lie, it's still a struggle. And I've been working and finding different ways. And I think that the key thing for me is to get out of the house, away from the noise and all of the people, take some time for myself. And my husband and I talk about it, and somehow or another, throughout his life, he's been very, very good about protecting his personal time. He will defend his personal time against any encroachment. He is going to go to the gym at this time, and if anybody else needs something, sucks for them. I'm not dealing with it.
And he continued down that same path?
He's continued, but what he's allowed, or what we've worked out together, is ways for me to have that same priority for myself. So that,
because that's the thing is for women, that often becomes a very low priority.
And so there was a situation where we were going to go work out together, and I realized that I'd forgotten we were going to do some dinner that was going to take a good amount of time, so I had to get it in the oven early. And I was like, I can't work out. I'm going to have to go put dinner in the oven. And he was like, okay, well, bye. And I kind of, I sat there like, really? Like, you're really going to leave me right now? Let me make this by myself when we're supposed to be doing this together? And I went down that path for a minute, and I reined myself in. Like, we're here to enjoy life. Life is supposed to be enjoyable. I am choosing to do this. I could have made the decision that we're going to buy food today. Like, I could have decided that. I didn't want to. And that was a choice that I made. And so when he came back, we talked about it. And he can absolutely see, like, he sees me doing it. And so now he's kind of nudging me, like, are you really? You want to give up that time, or do you want to?
So you had a conversation about it.
Absolutely.
It's not just out the door.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah.
let me pose this situation. You're married, you're single. Let's assume that you're all single women and you have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you might have gotten through this situation? There's no man in the house. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you didn't. Either way, you're juggling a lot. What do you think you might be like at this point?
Well, I'd be reaching out to working
Yeah.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you, Marissa. But how
Just
difficult-
like Marissa said earlier, it's letting go of expectations. I think that's the thing, whether you're a single mother, you're married with a husband at home. Any way you look at it, it's all about keeping your expectations low or reasonable, whatever you want to say is, in a situation like this that affects every single human being, we have to let go of, how we expect things to go and be more flexible. And I think whether you're a single mother or whatever your situation, I think that's critical. So for the single moms, I just pray for them every single day. I don't know how to be a single mom with 3 kids in a situation like this, but I think first and foremost, just like she said, is letting go of expecting how things should go and then being in acceptance of this is how it is and just figuring out the flow and what works for you and your children.
And stretching those groceries. I mean,
Yeah,
you're trying to stretch those 2 weeks.
Right.
So I'm going to just wrap up. I want to ask you this question. I really want you to think about it. Do you feel lucky working at Cox?
I don't even need to think about that.
Yeah,
That's a quick
that
yes.
doesn't
We're
take
very
any
lucky.
thinking.
It's a really good
What
company.
would you say to
I'm
your
grateful
top
every
management
single
about how they handle the situation for each of you during the pandemic? What's the message that you would send out to upper management?
Thank you.
Thank you. They handled it beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah.
I
I
couldn't have
have
asked for a better.
zero negative feedback. I mean,
Yeah.
every step of the way, even through furloughs and
Yeah.
layoffs.
Yeah.
And we did lose thousands of employees. We did.
Yeah.
But even through all of that, they did it so graciously. And the message all along was, we do really care about you.
Right.
Obviously in business, you do have to make difficult business decisions, but they did it with grace and they showed that they care about us. And, the things, and we have a charity that's employee driven called the Cox Employee Relief Fund. And that fund, and it's funded by our employee base. The company contributes to it, but the employees contribute to it. And it's to help our peers, our teammates, our employees internally. And that was there to help people through the pandemic and through, health issues, whatever the case might be, wherever they needed support, they had access to the relief fund to help with that as well.
And do you feel that employees actually asked for that help? Do you think that they felt comfortable enough to ask for the
They
help?
make it comfortable to ask.
Great.
I constantly, our HR business partners are saying, don't forget to remind your peers about the Cox Employee Relief Fund if they need help.
When we went through the fires over the summer, I know some people that needed to dip into that.
Mm-hmm.
They were really great about continually telling us, if you've been affected by the fires, we have a relief fund for you. If you had to get put in a hotel, we have a relief fund for you. We got tons of text messages.
Yes.
Like, they were really great about
And constantly
communicating.
checking on our safety. I mean,
They
just
constantly
all
check our
around
safety.
the way that they handle those communications.
Do you feel that there are other companies that could match what Cox has done?
Yeah.
Or do you feel that Cox
I
really
think
took
they
a lead?
could try, right?
Yeah.
They could do a lot of things differently to get closer. But I think that as far as the situations that we were facing at the beginning of last year and how we've managed through it, I don't know if we could have done it any better than the way that we did.
So you're 3 very powerful women working for Cox. What would you say to our audience about women in the workforce and how you've each overcome some challenges as a result of this pandemic?
I think that one of the things that I would hope that people would hear is to not be afraid to ask for help and to not be afraid to protect your time.
Yeah.
As I said, my husband is helping me do that. But my team, even my own team of people, one of the things you asked for, what are the negatives? What are the downsides of working from home? Some of the team members on my team shared with us that they had a hard time working from home for different reasons. And so they had to take some time away. And we were able to give that to them because we know that they needed it and that your mental health, honestly, is more important than anything else, because this is
so there really was a level of compassion that really was on the uptick. Susan, anything that you might
Well,
say
I
about
think
this?
at least for our organization, they know that, the best employee is a healthy employee,
Yes.
whether that's physical health, mental health, emotional health, whatever it is. And I feel like our leadership gets that. And I have a 28-year-old daughter who is working for a small local company, and she's also working from home. And so we've both been working, this is new for us over the last year, but I hear her sometimes and I'm just like, some of the things her company does and some of the things her manager says to her, I'm just like, this is still happening in corporate America. I don't know if I've just been so, because I do have my early corporate years, I had nasty bosses and I worked for awful companies. We all learn and grow through that, right, in our career. And having landed, the what I call the sunset of my career, it's such an amazing organization. I hear things and I'm just like, wow, it amazes me that there are still companies out there who operate
But
that way.
doesn't it make you feel that you found the
Oh,
right
absolutely.
company to work for? Amber, anything from you about working in
Yeah.
this company?
Yeah, I came from the advertising side of the world, and man, they treat you bad.
They
really
oh,
treat
yeah,
you badly.
really bad.
Like the abuse that you get, and the work-life balance, and unhealthy boundaries. And one thing I learned here was healthy boundaries and leaders who really honor that and support it and encourage it. Actually, just had my quarterly review yesterday, and they wanted me to do less. They said you need to do less and have healthier boundaries with your time.
Right.
Yes. So they really want you to be healthy mentally and
Right.
physically so that you can show fully.
Right.
And I can't echo that more. They really believe in it all the way down to the lower levels. Yeah. And even me with my coworkers that I work with, I say that to them too. Like, you don't echo it, right? Like, don't answer the email at midnight.
There's a culture that is really supporting your health.
Right. Well, and when you have happy employees like that, they're willing to go above and beyond. Like it's you can see that, when you have happy employees that feel like the company cares about them, you see them giving that little extra.
Instead of pushing them to stay up all night, you're asking them to stop.
You're asking them to stop. Yeah.
So thank you all for being with us today to talk about what you've gone through. You've each got these wonderful stories and experiences in the same company. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to our Rebuilding Careers podcast with Working Wardrobes. We thank Susan and Marissa and Amber, and we thank you for joining us, and come back and visit again real soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.